Hey everyone, welcome to Dentist in the Know. Chat found two things. Chad found ChatGPT and Chad also found Snagit, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's what he used. What a great intro, Chad. Thanks for setting that up. Welcome to Dentist in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. We are live. We are over your favorite beverage. And I am with some of my best friends in the industry. You know, this is Humpday Happy Hour. So you can't have a Humpday Happy Hour without people that do it with you every week. So my buddies that do it with me are Dr. Chad Duplantis and Dr. Jennifer Bell. You may know us. You may have seen us maybe at Chicago Midwinter. You may have seen us on the behind the podium. You may have seen us anywhere. You've also may have seen us at a bar. That would not be unlikely either. But right now, we are here to talk dentistry. We are here to talk about everything happening in the dental world. We have a great live guest tonight, Dr. Dennis Hartlieb, amazing dentist from Chicago, has an incredible online training forum. We'll get to that later. But for right now, we're here to bring all of you in the know. We are all dentists, we are all educators, and we're all business owners. And as I said, our job is to bring you in the know. Besties, how you doing?
Obviously, it's better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. Advil's kicking in, buddy.
Advil's kicking in good. Good.
He's got the post hanging out with these besties on a fantastic weekend hangover. Like it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And you've had...
and quite honestly, it could be a little bit of, I tried to lay low after Sunday, and apparently my body considers that the DTs. I don't know.
That's a topic.
Chad, what about that intro, man? That was phenomenal.
Was awesome.
I loved it. You used Snagit, didn't you?
No, I didn't. So here's what happened. I was putting together a course description, and I was, instead of like copying it from Word and putting it in there, I typed in last call with the dentist in the know. And then all of a sudden it comes up with these two descriptions of who we are and what we do. And I'm like, holy shit, that's pretty amazing. ChatGPT knows who we are. So
Chad GPT?
Yeah. So Chad GPT. Yeah. So
Chad
I was
GPT.
Like, I got an idea. So what I did is I used, I just recorded the screen as I typed all those questions, and then I put it in Clipchamp and added music with it. And I was like, all right, we're going to do this.
Oh, now he's like a producer.
Yeah. No, you had asked me about, I was telling you about Snagit when the last time that we were together. So I thought you were using it because it has a screen record and a screen capture and all that stuff too.
No, I was just trying to figure out how to do it. But you know what we need to do, y'all? I mean, this is really important that we figure this out. All right. somebody, and I vote for, let's see. I vote for Jennifer to do this. Somebody needs to put together some sort of freaking tutorial on Facebook as to how to find us on YouTube, because we've been doing this on YouTube now forever, just because Facebook kind of made us. And I've been sitting here for the first 5 minutes of the show trying to find the damn thing on YouTube. It's not easy.
Do you not subscribe? Because it comes right up for me.
Yeah, if you subscribe, it should be literally the first thing that shows up, Chad.
You're not even subscribed to your own podcast.
I'm just gonna say, considering I set it up, it's my number one subscription. I click on it, doesn't pop up.
Huh.
So maybe it's something with my YouTube, as my father-in-law used to say. Oh, you know what I saw on my Facebook today? Maybe it's something with my YouTube.
It is your YouTube.
Yeah, it must be my YouTube.
So
anyhow,
how about this last weekend, guys? Like, what a great Chicago Midwinter meeting, and I use that term broadly because it's such a packed week between Equilibration Society and Midwinter, Restorative Academy, lab days. I mean, there's just such a ton of stuff going on, and this is why I always urge people to make it to Chicago. If there's one meeting a year that you make it to, make it there that time of year, because there's just so much going on. But what a great weekend we had, huh?
It was really a fantastic weekend.
What? Oh, yes. Am I the only one excited?
I'm kidding. It was awesome.
I came home with a leprechaun hat.
Yeah, we've got it. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I mean, whenever we're all together, we always have a great time anyway. We make memories, have fun. I mean, that's to be expected. But gosh, it felt almost like coming home a little bit, like so many friends in the dental industry, on the manufacturer side, on the speaking side, KOLs, on Dentists in the Know, and just great people who've been participating in the platform for a long time. I got to put a lot of faces to names for the first time, and meet people in person that I actually have never physically met, but know them very well through Zoom or, different digital platforms. So I think Midwinter still is that amazing meeting where connection, fellowship, camaraderie, everybody says, like, this is why I come here. Yes, it's got all those things, but it's all of us being together in one space. And you literally can't go into a bar, a restaurant, even jump in an Uber without a dentist that you probably know jumping out of the same Uber. So it's almost as if we've just all taken over a giant city for the weekends. It's just a fun time.
It is cool. What was your highlight, Chad?
I don't know that there was a specific one. There were no, that wasn't it. That was
beluga whale.
That was people soup is what it was. I mean, it was freaking disgusting. There were a lot of people at the aquarium. I'm telling you. Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, if you go in there, you with your $52 admission, you're going to come out with COVID or flu A. I guarantee you that. Or some other, disease that children run around with.
That's just not.
My highlight was really just hanging out with the two of you, and I think we got some incredible interviews. I think we got to visit with some incredible manufacturers. If one thing really kind of stands out about what we did this weekend, I'm just going to go ahead and give Clinician's Choice a shout out, because that little video that we did at their booth, it was like Peter Alport has been on daytime TV for the past 30 years. It was like, holy crap, where did this come from?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the guy just was like freaking Pat Sajak. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think we realized, honestly, you do these things, you do it for a few years. There's always a time where you're like, what's next? What's next? I came back extremely energized because there's a lot that's next.
Would you call this the year of the AI? I mean, every other company, table, booth, even if they're not known for AI, they're doing something in AI. It just felt Like every single manufacturer, vendor, software company was, that was their latest unveiling.
Yeah, they certainly worked it into the sales pitch, if nothing else.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But no, it was very much a common theme. But I mean, for me, the highlight is, and I love getting the content. I love doing those interviews. I think we got like 30 interviews while we were there. I mean, it was a lot. We got a lot done. Maybe even a few more. But for me, the highlight is just what you said. It's just hugging those people that you might see a couple of times a year, maybe pass them on the road and stuff. It's hugging those people and catching up, and then just bouncing ideas off of each other. And just like you said, Chad, I think there's so much coming up. I left there so excited about so many things. For me to get on the plane and want to make a list, that says it all. And it really was. It was a great experience.
So it made me think today. This is kind of unrelated, but kind of related. So, member of a local golf club here, and we got this crazy email today. And you said something, Jeff, that really triggered this. We got this crazy email from the management of the golf club that says that we're not allowed to hug anymore at the golf course. Like you can't hug employees.
What?
You can't hug employees of the golf course anymore. Fist bumps and handshakes are acceptable,
is this
but no
because of you, Chad? Is it?
What
happened
do?
with the beverage card lady?
So, of course, a couple of our guests, Dr. Jose Chow and Ryan Walsh, are my golfing buddies. So I send them both a message, and I was like, I guess Ryan's gotten a little bit too friendly with the marshal, and now we've all been reprimanded. I was like, where the hell did this come from? So I can't wait to go out there this weekend and watch everybody. Hey, man, how's it going? How you doing? I'm like, who the hell's hugging who out there? But you said friendly hugs, hey, is that acceptable anymore?
Brothers don't shake. Brothers hug.
100%. Or
not at Sky Creek in Keller, Texas. You fist bump and you handshake. There's no more hugging.
All right. What are you going to do about that?
How about slap games? Can y'all start doing that? Like fancy handshakes?
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. We'll get a little pitch perfect on everybody. So
there you go.
Guys, we have an amazing guest, and I don't want to keep him waiting too long. So, JB, I know there's some news because, heck, even I've got news. So, I mean,
you've got news?
I was like, if JB gets sick, I need to start putting some of this stuff in reserve, right? I mean, I can't be you. I can want to be you, but I can also have everything in reserve in case. Now, these stories may be stale by the time I ever do them, but
anyway. Know what though?
You know what? Why don't we be quiet, Jeff, and let JB do the news?
Good idea.
But you know what? I'm going to stay up here with you while you do the news just because I want to hear
it. You're killing Jeff. Okay, so I've been tagged a few times recently for an update on this particular story, which applies to all of us. So let's go ahead and tune in for the update. So the FinCEN, which is something we've been talking about, I feel like maybe since January of 2024 when it first came out, was this regulation that came forward for small businesses to have to register through the Department of Treasury. Originally, this whole idea was to start clamping down on offshore businesses and having foreign individuals, owners, and contributors within small businesses. So it was a regulatory step to get a better understanding of who owns small businesses, who's running them, where's the money going, etc. Then it went through an incredible battle through different court systems, particularly in Texas, whether or not this was a necessary requirement and burden for small businesses. Well, here we are. The deadline has moved 22 times since its original inception. Last update was for February 15th, but as of February 18th, the final settlement date has been settled for March 21st of 2025. Now, I found this whole document actually very readable, number one. So if this is the new thing to come out of the regulatory agencies, I'm actually pretty pumped because it was one of the first government documents that has come forward in a while when I do the news. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I can follow the track here. This is normal language. I can see the thought process. So that's number one in my book. But there's a lot of, I would say, nebulous language around whether or not by the end of March 21st, 2025, if all small businesses in the U.S. will still have to I think that the original intent was to look for businesses that were doing nefarious activity or maybe had, an interesting structure that had a lot of offshore monies being moved around. If I'm being really honest, and I don't know about every dental office in the US, but I don't know that we were their original intended market, but we are the unfortunate casualty of regulation. I would not be surprised if I have another update for you in March where small businesses that are not deemed to be security risks, which I think most dental offices will probably fall under that umbrella, might never have to comply with this. So if you haven't done it yet, hang tight. You've got till March 21st, and I might still wait to see how the dust settles. If you have and it doesn't come to fruition, no harm, no foul. I doubt anything will really come of that. If you happen to be dabbling in some nefarious offshore activities, then I would definitely put March 21st, 2025 on your calendar. Now, another interesting story comes to us out of Utah. Utah is now set to be the first state to ban community water fluoridation. We knew that there's been a lot of talk about whether or not states were going to keep up with their water fluoridation programs. And it is going to probably become a more state-specific program, but also more municipality centered, where individual municipalities, you may even start to see this on the voting dockets when our elections come up in the fall. We may see different jurisdictions voting on whether or not they'll keep fluoridation in their water system. Utah, as a state, has come forward with the first bill, House Bill 81, stating that they would adopt a public policy in opposition to the mission of the ADA and that they would remove fluoridation from their water system. Now, this obviously is going to go through whatever process legislatively will be required. We'll still see whether or not that is how Utah settles. And then I would assume municipalities would have some jurisdiction beyond that. But Utah is set to make history by being the first state to ban community water fluoridation. Another interesting bill coming to us out of DC this week. The House has introduced a bill. We've been watching various versions of this bill for, 3 or 4 years now, trying to open up coverage for non-covered services with in-network providers. So to make some clarity for that particular language, if you go to a dentist and you want to receive care, veneers or some type of cosmetic procedure that's not covered by your insurance company. In years past, a dentist couldn't actually charge the fee for that service. They would either have to downgrade that fee to the contracted rate, even though the insurance company was providing no benefit or coverage for that particular service. Now, 38 states, I believe now, have language in their dental practice acts that prohibit an insurance company to dictate whether or not you have to charge that contracted fee. The caveat, and we've had Greg Grommeyer on here before to talk about this particular nuance in the law, if you see a patient who's operating under a self-insured or a federal plan, they fall under the federal law. And the federal law dictates that you can only charge the contracted rate. So if you see a patient in your office who's on one of the large payer-supported programs, it's a state-funded plan or a large PPO plan that's not self-funded by the company, then your state law abides. So if you live in a state where you can charge a fee for a service, whether or not you're in network or not, you're okay. If you see a patient who is self-insured or the plan that they're providing is self-insured or they have a federal plan, you may fall under federal jurisdiction, which means if you do a veneer for that patient, you're not allowed to pass through your whole fee. Super nuanced. And oh, by the way, might I also add, if you call the insurance company to ask if that's a self-funded plan, they won't let you know. So what are dentists to do in this particular quagmire that they continue to find themselves in, especially for in-network? Can I charge my full fee? Can I not charge my full fee? Is this self-insured? Is it not? It actually would be quite lovely if the US government would have kind of an all-encompassing rule or regulatory language around this particular nuance so that dentists could, in good faith, provide estimates to their patients, provide services in which they are due full fee, full disclosure to the patient who agrees to pay said full fee, and provide that high level of service to the patient. Patient wins, doctor wins. And we are able to have full disclosure to the patient under those particular circumstances. So I'm really excited about this bill. It's actually also being supported by the optometry group as well. So I think they have some similar issues with some of their elective services as well. So it looks like there may be a little bit momentum coming behind this. Fingers crossed that the government's not too busy doing other things to maybe give this a little bit of attention. It's something we've been certainly fighting for within the legislation for quite some time. The ADA seems to be coming forward with strong support, which will help in those lobbying efforts. So we'll continue to see how this works out. Oh, and by the way, they passed a No Surprise Billing Act not that long ago, which means we can't bill patients more than $400 without them knowing that it was going to come beforehand. So all of these things are incredibly important for, frankly, the health and well-being and mental stability of dentists and patients everywhere. And with that, that's the news.
Well, this is getting to be a bit much, JB.
I think we're going to have to save yours for next week, Jeff.
Well, sometimes ignorance is bliss.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Very sorry.
No, gosh. I mean, it's really crazy. I mean, I try to keep up with all this, but when, you start thinking, I mean, how many times has that happened where the patient wasn't notified, that their insurance wasn't going to pay, and then
Right.
They sign a financial disclosure, but is that adequate to cover us when we send that bill? I mean, what legal avenue do we have to go through to make sure that applies? I don't get it.
We're not going to slow our guest up, but my only hope with the No Surprise Billing Act, which was put in place a few years ago, at least in dentistry, we do, I think, do a very good job of putting a good faith effort to give the patient every bit of information that we can. And in fact, I spend an inordinate amount of money on services to ensure that I have good information when I tell a patient the crown is going to cost this much money. In medicine, I cannot remember the last time someone put forward a treatment plan to me and said, oh, your colonoscopy, and by the way, your intestine was 22 centimeters longer than we thought it was going to be. So here's an extra $4,200 on top of the $8,000 we didn't tell you it was going to cost to begin with. Like, that just never happens, really. So
no, but it clearly violates the act.
Correct.
I mean,
it violates a lot of things if we're going back to the colonoscopy.
The violation, any way you look at it.
It violates so many things. But my point is, I think, certainly medicine is having to pay attention to that a lot more. I think you can make the argument that dentists have always been trying to make a strong effort to make sure that we don't surprise bill. But, I'm just waiting for the first dental claim where a dentist can't pursue collection because of something like that. So let's get our guest on. I bet he could maybe talk about that.
Well,
I tell you what, I can't do two things at once. So I'm going to introduce our guest while Jeff brings them up.
I'm going to put my glasses on. This is a big operation we're doing here.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about our guest. Jennifer and I met our guest a couple weeks ago in Aruba, Dr. Dennis Hartlieb. I got to watch him speak. I was blown away. He's doing a lot of great things in his practice, and he's got a lot of great things going on outside of his practice. But Listen to this. So he was a graduate of the University of Michigan School of Dentistry, maintains a
Go,
full-time private
go blue.
practice.
And I see your little Texas helmet behind, just out of the way.
Yeah, I'll bring that up in a second because they did win this past year.
Yeah.
But he maintains a full-time private practice, cosmetic and restorative dentistry in the Chicago suburb of Glenview, Illinois. He's an instructor at the Center for Aesthetic Excellence in Chicago, former adjunct professor at Marquette University. But this is where it gets kind of crazy. He's a member of the I'm going to read it. The American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, the American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry, the American Academy of Restorative Dentistry, the American Dental Association, American College of Dentists, American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine, and he's also the founder of Dental Online Training, which is an online hands-on training program for dentists, auxiliaries, and dental students. In addition, if that's not enough, he's an examiner for the AACD accreditation process. So without further ado, our new good friend, Dr. Dennis Hartlieb, who has internet in the outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee up there. So welcome.
We do. I'm hardwired. I didn't trust the Wi-Fi here.
Yeah.
I brought my 50-foot Ethernet cable, so I'm ready.
Visiting your sister.
Thanks for having me, everybody. This is so nice to be here.
Well,
coming
really
fresh off of Restorative Academy, which you were chair of the essays, right? This year?
First day. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So can you talk a little, I mean, you can't disclose everything, but can you talk a little bit about that process? And honestly, I kept thinking, how do you find these fantastic individuals to sort of come together and build that program?
I can. I took some notes when you were doing your news. So can I make some comments on those? Well,
please.
First of all, you guys were talking about AI before I think you went on with the news. And I've decided that I'm LOI, and I go by lack of intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. So that's so AI, I go with LOI. I love the word nefarious. I thought that was great. That's I love how you dropped that in. That's a great word. You're talking about the fluoride.
Two big words.
I think, fluoride's going to be this is going to be more and more. And so I'm thinking buy more birds, invest in Brasseler, right? I think, it's going to be another heyday for dentistry. You can politically, you can go on whatever side you want. I'm just going to invest more in Brasseler and whoever's making good composites and stuff. Dental insurance. I honestly, God, how do you even read that crap? I swear to God, I just have corruption. That's what corruption and WTF. It's just bullshit. I don't know how you even manage to go through that. And I decided it's too much information about your large intestine, and that's sort of what I got from the
news. That's the news behind the news.
The news behind the news. So I was taking notes.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's the inside scoop.
Yeah, literally the inside.
Yeah.
And you said scoop, right?
Yeah.
Right.
not soft serve scoop.
Just check it. So you were talking about Midwinter and all the meetings, all the ancillary meetings that go on with the Chicago Midwinter. And so the Chicago Midwinter has been going on for over a century. And the question is, why do you have a big dental meeting in Chicago in February? And all I can figure out is the rooms were cheap. And I think dentists just be notoriously cheap. I think that's how it ended up being, right?
Same thing.
And there's a ton of them too. I mean, they can accommodate everyone that shows up.
Yeah. And so you have, you guys were talking about the equilibration meeting. That precedes a meeting. You have the fixed op or the operative meeting. You have the fixed pros meeting. You have lab day. Pros has a meeting. Perio has a meeting. It's just a great couple 5 days there in Chicago. So the Restorative Academy was founded 94 years ago by some dentists actually in Milwaukee, and they started hanging out together at the Drake Hotel 94 years ago. And then it started as a study club. It was the Milwaukee Porcelain Society, I think it was, and the Ceramic Society. And so to get to the question, so we have 2 days of presentations. The first day is 6 speakers that each speak for 50 minutes. And then it's 10 minutes Q&A. And the second day is awesome because it's 18-minute presentations. And if you've ever tried to present something in 18 minutes, man, you better have your stuff together. And then in the afternoons, we have these great table clinics where people have literally 8 minutes to tell their story. But the putting the first day together, we have a committee of, I think we had 11 dentists that were on the committee. They each came to our meeting with 3 to 4 names. We put these names up on a board, and then we just started bringing them out one by one. Who knows this speaker? Yeah, what are they speaking on? Or who else is speaking on this subject? And we would pull out 4 or 5 people speaking on the same subject and say, who's seen these people, and who can tell me who do you like better out of these people? And we would literally just start whittling down one by one. Well, this person's awesome. And it was just, it took us 3 hours to go through maybe 37 different names to be able to fill out our six speakers. So it's a great process. And we just had just excellent speakers. They really brought their best to the table. It was kicked off by John and Dean Coyce talking about collaborative dentistry. So if that's your kickoff band, you know you're gonna have
right. If that's your lead off,
yeah, right.
How
Yeah.
great is it afterwards?
Your leadoff hitter was getting on base pretty high percentage with John and Dean kicking it off.
So a lot of people think that that they could never be at one of these meetings, but actually the members of the Restorative Academy can issue invitations. So there are some of the dentists that come there are just guests, and you're allowed to go there as a guest, which I try to do every time that I can. And I think that's important for everyone out there to hear, because I think dentists sometimes think that, these meetings are so exclusive that they could never be at any of them. And that opportunity is absolutely there.
Yeah, and Jen came as a guest this year. It's a little tricky getting tickets, to be honest, get seats. So if you don't know anyone in the Restorative Academy, then you just reach out to me, and I'll see if we can hook you up for a seat. It's a great meeting. It's pretty popular. A lot of people want to attend and stuff, but it's really just a great group of people. You have some really renowned people. So you have Spear and Coyce and some of the, the kings of dentistry, but then you have, people who just are working hard in their neighborhood practice and just doing really good dentistry. And it's a great community of dentists who are just working hard to just continue, the excellence of dentistry. It's pretty fun.
And I would say don't brush any of it off, because I've had the privilege of attending twice, and you mentioned some of the big names. I don't think people realize the work that these dentists put in to become a member of the Restorative Academy. And it's not just GPs, it's all facets of dentistry, and it's just people who love the profession and love the science behind the profession and love the education that's pushing our profession forward. And I just have the utmost respect for the organization. It's a pretty fantastic crew of people. So I actually was asked not to come back anymore. They were like,
had nothing to do with that, Chad.
They were like, dude, the words bread and butter, they just aren't going to work here. So, get out. No, I'm teasing.
Oh, I thought that was that little table we sat at and had a ball, like a big bowl with black balls, and we all picked the people we didn't like, and you just drop it in.
It was the fart machine I put under your chair. They didn't find it funny, JB.
Weird.
Yeah. There's a certain decorum that we expect.
There is definitely a level of decorum.
Yeah. I actually was looking back. It's the first night, I believe, that they have the president's reception.
Yeah, which is
and I was looking back to a couple years ago, and I was like, "What the hell is this video?" And it was the lady that was in that shot glass dress.
She was back. She was back this year.
She was.
All I could hear on the video was, "Ma'am, could you please just stand there for a second so I can take a video?" And I was like, "Dear God, you did not just ask her that 2 years ago, you freaking idiot." So
she hasn't moved. You asked her to stand there, and she hasn't moved since. So
that's true.
She was as cold as ice. So anyhow,
it's how the Four Seasons do it. They're there to serve, right? They get it.
Well, it's obvious that you've devoted you do a lot beyond just treat patients. So tell us a little bit about your practice. I mean, how many days a week are you there? Do you work with an associate? What's your practice like? And then what's it like outside? So
our practice about 25 miles north of the city of Chicago, one of the suburbs. I have my partner, Chris Ching. He's been a partner since 2019, but he's been in the practice for much longer than that. Our practice is restorative based. We restore teeth, we restore implants. He does a little bit of Invisalign. In our community, so we kind of have a specialty practice. We have a general practice, but we sort of have a specialty cosmetic practice. And we get a lot of referrals. In fact, our number one referrals, volume-wise in our practice is actually from specialists. So our number one referral base is actually pediatric dentists. Pediatric dentists and orthodontists are our number one referrals, which is why we don't do a lot of Invisalign in our practice, because this is who's feeding us. The practice, I took over a practice from a guy named Buddy Mopper. And for those who aren't familiar with Buddy, he was one of the pioneers in composite dentistry. He started doing high level composites in the 70s. He and, there's a few people, Erwin Schmeigel, Ronnie Goldstein down in Atlanta, Ron from Canada, Clinician's Choice.
Ron Jackson.
Ron Jackson, yes. Ron Jackson.
Ron Jackson's
Ron Jackson.
implant guy.
Jackson was Ron Jackson was an excellent dentist as well.
Yeah, he was. I actually learned always from
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah. Sorry, Peter. But Ron Jordan was one of the original composite people back in the day. And so Mopper started this practice. He was in the north suburbs of Chicago. I joined him 25 years ago. And that's sort of where my learnings came from. I'm not sure how I started out on this whole thing. Where were we going with this, Chad? I completely went off the rails.
We're talking about your practice and
that's right.
Kind of how you've built it and what,
so
you're going in the right
practice. I'm back on the rails. So we're restorative based practice. We don't do a lot of these. We don't do a lot of specialty stuff because that's how we generate our referrals. So go back and look at it, I think we're about 70% of our referrals come from other specialists and 30% come from other patients. So it's worked out well for us, which is great because then we can sort of dial into the stuff that we want to do. So we do general dentistry, but a good portion of our practice is cosmetic and sort of higher end restorative type dentistry stuff.
Were you really, were you looking for like a high caliber practice when you got into that? I mean, for most of the people out there who may not know, I mean, Buddy Mopper was a huge name. I mean, people chased him down to learn from him. He was published in every magazine. I mean, this was no hack. So how did you end up at that practice? That's kind of interesting.
So I was practicing in Chicago, sort of like the northwest part of the city. It was very blue collar. It was first generation Polish. So most of my patients spoke Polish as their native language. Many of my patients didn't speak English at all. I don't speak Polish at all. But back when I graduated dental school, there was very little opportunity for dentists. Back in Chicago in the late 80s and the 90s, they were graduating 400 dentists a year in the city of Chicago. I started my first few years in practice. I was a temporary hygienist for 2 to 3 days a week, and I was working public aid dentistry the other couple of days a week. And so a colleague of mine from dental school, he came upon this small practice in the north side of the city. We worked that. And then I made the grave mistake of seeing Frank Spear speak at the Midwinter meeting. And true story. So I'm there with my partner. Her name's Monica. And we're at the Midwinter meeting. We go see Frank Spear. We walk out from his presentation and I was blown away. So for those who don't understand, so back in the early 90s, we had PFMs. We were just getting into early all ceramic stuff, Dicor. There was some, or InCeram was just starting to come out, but most of the restorations were PFM crowns. And I walked out of that presentation. It was the first time I'd ever seen dentistry that actually looked like teeth. Dentistry always looked like dentistry. You could tell dentistry a mile away. And I walked out and Monica walked out with me and I turned to Monica and I said, that's what I want to do. And Monica looked at me and she said, I'm applying to med school. And she literally did. She literally did. She literally came in on Monday, said, I'm taking the MCATs. This is the day for the MCATs. You
had no idea?
No idea. But so her brother's a prosthodontist. Her uncle was head of prost at Marquette Dental School. So she knew what it was going to take to get to that level. I was completely naive and ignorant. I thought, oh, you just start doing it. And that's not how it worked in my case. So anyhow, so yeah, she went off to med school and she was an internist. She just recently retired from medicine. And so I was struggling in my practice. I was going out to Spear. I was at Spear's first course in his office around this oval table. Took me a year to pay off that course. But it was so profound in sort of my development. And then once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. And I tried to build that type of practice where I was in this very blue collar community. My lab fee was what I was paying for a lab fee for a crown was more than what the dentist next door was charging for a crown. And I only know that because the patient told me that. They told me that, I was charging at the time like $950 for a crown. And the patient came and said, well, Dr. whatever next door is charging $350 for a crown. And I said, well, my lab fee actually costs more than that when I'm paying my lab technician more than that.
Yeah.
So through happenstance circumstances, I ended up meeting Buddy. And he was looking for someone to come into ceramic work to support the bonding that he was doing. So his challenges would be, Buddy would do composite veneers for teeth, say 4 through 13, and then he'd send the patient back to their dentist to have crowns done on the molars. And the patient would come back and the molars were mismatched from the bonding that he had done. And he was really, really frustrated. So it was important to get the patient back to the dentist who had referred them, but he wanted to manage anything in the aesthetic zone as well as we could. And so that's how I came into practice. I was sort of doing posterior ceramics, picking up ceramics wherever it needed, and then just, sort of posterior resins and all that stuff.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Buddy was very involved with Cosmedent. Is that correct? Okay.
He is Cosmedent. Yeah, he started Cosmedent.
Okay. I just wanted to, that's what I thought. So Buddy's, and I don't, is Buddy's no longer with us, or is Buddy?
Oh no, so Buddy's still kicking. He just turned 88.
Okay.
He taught with me. We did a course. Last year was the first year that he didn't teach in person. He still teaches some virtual courses. I'm hoping he comes down. I'm teaching a class at Cosmedent in 2 weeks, and I'm hoping he'll come in and share some of his insights and his experience. I mean, the guy did it for 50 years, and layering techniques, using a hybrid composite or a composite that had more strength for the palatal wall, but then putting a microfill over the surface, which gives you much more polish, but doesn't have the fracture strength that you get from a hybrid. He was the one who came up with these concepts. He came up with the concepts of opaquing and blocking out. I mean, all of us had this experience of doing a class 4 composite and being able to see where the tooth ends and the composite begins. So Mopra was the one who talked to us about using opacers, using a dentin-like material to block out that transition zone. So he's just a wealth of information. I mean, I learned so much from Buddy through just hanging out and watching him teach, teaching with him, and then just being in his presence. He's an incredible person.
So Buddy, as I recall, was kind of the pioneer of the pink opaquing composite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was.
Now, as we learned, though, nothing pink cures, correct?
Oh, where did that come from? That was. It was so bizarre. That was so bizarre. We were at a conference. So just so the listening audience knows what the heck we're talking about. We were in a KOL meeting, key opinion leader meeting. We're just a bunch of people who think they know everything, and right.
And me.
Yeah, no. I mean, we all think that we know everything, right? And we don't, obviously, because someone made a statement in the room that pink composite materials can't be polymerized, and that's obviously not true, because
we were all kind of like looking around, like kind of dumbfounded, and so that's
Tofu unfortunately has a whole line of
they can be disappointed.
And so FYI, the way I first learned about the Cosmedent's pink composite is I was talking to a good friend of mine, Dr. Paresh Shah. And I was asking him, and I was like, man, I'm getting these elderly patients. I'm trying to block out and mask the metal on these PFM crowns and blend some composite in. How do yours look so good? He's like, Cosmedent's pink opaquing composite. I'm like, done, ordered it the next day, and so
game changer.
Yeah, it is a game changer. So I thought that was the name with Cosmedent, so I apologize for my ignorance. I never had the privilege of seeing Buddy speak, nor did I didn't have the privilege of taking over his practice. How cool is that? So.
Yeah, it's an experience, and if you haven't seen Buddy, he's I call him Mount Mopper. Yeah, he's you know, it's lots of times the volcano's just fine, and sometimes it's not. And so it was always interesting. But I've learned more from Buddy than anyone on this planet, and he guided me to be able to do things that I never ever thought I would do. Like if you would have asked me 25 years ago, is there a place for composite veneers? I would have told you you're smoking crack. That's the dumbest thing in the world. Why would you do composite veneers when you can just prep the teeth, take an impression, and have someone make something that's going to be stronger, better, whatever? And then learning from Mopper and Corky Wilhite, Newton Fall, there's just so many like phenomenal composite dentists, and learning from them. I will tell you, any given day, I'd rather do a composite veneer than a porcelain veneer. Any given day. There's few exceptions.
There was a guy here in Dallas that was pretty well known, Jimmy Eubanks.
Oh my God, Jimmy's
he did composite veneers, and I mean, you could go sit in his lecture 30 years ago and be like, "Oh my God, that looks just like porcelain. That looks like feldspathic porcelain." They do beautiful work, and I know Corky. Corky is, oh my gosh, what an amazing dentist he is. So
yeah, Jimmy Eubank was just through the roof. I took so many classes from Jimmy. He was so talented. What a great guy. Love Jimmy.
And he was country, wasn't he?
he was country.
Yeah.
Did it come with like a subtitle?
Yeah. He had subtitles.
For you Canadians or above the Mason-Dixon line, this is what he really meant, you know?
Well, fortunately, he spoke slowly enough that you could sort of interpret it. It took a little while, but he was speaking at sort of that Texas slow speak, and so you could figure it out. But he's awesome.
And then when you find out that Corky's from New Orleans, you're like, "Where's your accent, dude?" I mean, he has none. So,
Corky, speaking. Go ahead.
I don't want to dwell on this, but you said something so interesting that you probably didn't think was very interesting, but. When you graduated and there were so many, what?
Was it nefarious?
Oh, I love it.
It was nefarious.
I just had to use it. Okay, sorry. When you graduated,
now that Chad has a big word
for the day.
I love that word. I knew it before. Okay.
He can't spell it, but he'll keep using it. Anyway, when you graduated and there were 400 dentists in your marketplace and you had to go out as a temp hygienist and kind of do odd jobs, like, all I kept thinking is, I'm not sure we're not heading into that same space again with a surplus of dentists, but also hygienists demanding such a high salary that we've had this conversation in our practice. It's like, well, if I can get an associate who can do basic composite dentistry and also prophies, or I can get a hygienist for X amount who only scales teeth. Like
100%.
Yeah. I don't want to downgrade dentists, but there are a lot more of them in the marketplace looking for places to go than we can find hygienists currently.
It was a very similar situation back in the day. And so, I had to pay my student debt. I mean, I applied to be a waiter at a restaurant in Chicago, and because I wanted to make more, I needed to make more money. I was making $25 an hour as a hygienist. I was, working in a public aid clinic, making a little bit of coin, but not much. And they looked at my resume, and I shouldn't have put down my education because they laughed and they said, "We can't hire you." Like, no, seriously, I'll work hard. I'm a hard worker.
No, I need a job.
We can't hire you. They literally said, "We can't hire you." And so, but yeah, I think I do see some similarities. It's, I don't know if today's generation, and for those out there, I don't mean everyone, and please don't take it that way, but I think there's a different sort of mindset than when I was, 40 years ago. And so it's terrible. I don't understand how the dental profession has allowed the hygiene to have its own such a significant voice. I'll tell you a story. So in Wisconsin, where I live, the hygiene lobby is stronger than the dental lobby. So they have the dental, what do they call they can do everything a dentist can, and we're meant for them to
like a mid-level provider.
Yeah, like a mid-level provider.
Therapist, yeah.
They can remove teeth, they can do root canals, they can do all your restorative stuff. What they cannot do in the state of Wisconsin, they can't do deep root they can't do root planing and scaling. You can extract teeth, you can do root canals, You can do crown and bridge. I don't know about placing implants. I don't remember if that's the thing they can or cannot do, but you can essentially do everything in dentistry, except you can't scale and root plane. That's under
Well,
the
much
And that's
less
a
can go
mid-level
wrong
provider.
scaling and
Mid-level
root
provider.
planing than with an extraction, for sure.
Right? Exactly. They got to pull it out, scale it, and reimplant it.
It's interesting because when the mid-level provider concept came forward, it was supposed to be simple, which we all joked. Like if I knew when I went into a class 2 that it was going to be simple,
Yeah.
dentistry wouldn't be so difficult, right? But
true, right?
it was like simple restorative, simple extractions, which again, we all laughed because we've definitely gotten into a extraction we thought was going to be easy that turned out not to be so.
Simple extraction where
then-
the floor of the sinus comes out with the tooth.
That's right.
You're right.
Exactly. Exactly. And then hygiene. That was it. That was supposed to be the scope of the mid-level provider. That was their mid-level treatment.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
So-
yet,
So who knows? I mean, I think it's obviously in some states I know are trying to rectify this by sort of promoting dental assistants with a little in-office additional training to become into that hygiene role. We need to figure it out because I was just with someone and their brother is an office manager up in my area, and they've been looking for an office manager for over a year. I mean, for a hygienist for over a year.
Mhm.
And this is a common story in our neck of the woods, and I don't know how it is in your individual
same.
communities, but it's
It's the same for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. So
Same.
Dennis, I want to pivot for a second and ask about so you put together an online training program. So tell everyone about that.
So in 2016, I was teaching a hands-on workshop. And for those who have ever taught or ever presented, if you're given a lecture, it's pretty easy. Not easy, but it's pretty straightforward. You give your presentation. If people want to be on their phone, if people want to open a newspaper, which has happened to me before, someone literally opened a newspaper right in front of me when I was presenting. If they want to do that, then you just have to give your presentation, and you hope that there's questions and there's engagement. It makes it better for everybody, but it is what it is. You're going to give your presentation. When you do a workshop, I think it's a whole different ball of wax. When you're given a hands-on workshop, there are people who spent a lot more money, who've dedicated a significant amount of time and energy, and they want to learn. They're there to learn. So when you do a normal workshop, it's typically on a bell curve. You got the people who are super accelerated, you have the people in the middle of the bell curve, and then you have the laggards, the people who are new to the concept. This particular composite course I was teaching at Cosmetic, we had 14 participants. We had 3 people who were super accelerated, sitting right in the front row, right in front of the workstation. And then we literally had 11 people who barely knew how to open a tube of composite. Like they didn't know anything. So imagine doing a workshop where you have to take the 3 people who are super accelerated and try and give them exercise to do, while meanwhile you're trying to work with 11 people on the very, very basic concepts. And it was 2 days, and at the end, it was like the worst class I ever taught because I couldn't go fast enough for the accelerated people. I couldn't go slow enough for the people. And I'm trying to work in the room and trying to help everybody, and it was exhausting and horrible. Afterwards, I met up with a colleague of mine who's in tech, and I said, we were having a beer, and I said, or 2, and I was so depressed because when you teach, you want people to get things out of it. You work hard. And I said, it's not that they're dumb, they just don't have experience. If I could be in their office, I know they could learn this. And he said, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we get you in their office? And that's where sort of this virtual concept of being in people's dental offices. And this is back in 2016. So we launched our first on-demand course in 2017. And we have about 30 on-demand courses, everything from class 1 composites, class 2 composites, class 4 composites, full composite veneers, diastema closures, porcelain veneer preparations, porcelain veneer cementations, opening vertical dementia with composites. Jim McKee's done some courses for us on reading CBCTs, reading MRIs, the TMJ patient, the evaluation. We have photography workshop. We have airway. We just Ryan Springer is a phenomenal dentist near me. He just did an injection molding technique course for us. So we have all these like on-demand courses, but then we also do the live virtual courses where so essentially on the on-demand, you watch the course, but then we send you a kit of materials that we have used for the filming. And so you get the same model, you get the same burrs, you get the same composites, you get all the same stuff. and then you do it along at your pace whenever you want, along with the videos. So you can do it at midnight, you can do it on Sunday, you can do it whatever time you want. You can watch a couple modules and then go see a patient and then come back to it. That's been super successful, and it's great because we get to work with dentists from around the world who want to learn and more, from basic techniques to more advanced techniques. Then our live virtual workshops, we send a kit to the participants. I have the same kit. I'm working in my basement. I have my cameras, and then we have some presentation, and then, okay, open up your kit. This is going to be the first thing we're going to do. Let's do a class 4, everyone. This is the burr I'm going to use to create my bevel. Everyone got the same burr. This is what the bevel is going to look like. All right, this is what we've talked about in the presentation. Now, everyone create a bevel just like this. If you have any questions, take a photo, put it up on the screen. Let's take a look at it, make sure everyone's on the same page. All right, we're good. Okay, let's go to the next step. And we go everything from making the putty matrix guide to the layering, shaping, finishing, polishing. So we do that over 2 days. We're doing a peg lateral class 4 technique in, when is that? That's coming up at the end of March. And we have 6 to 7 different live virtual programs that you can take advantage of. And we charge one fee to be a member of Dental Online Training. And you have access to all the on-demand courses. You have access to all the live virtual courses. We have a study club that meets 5 nights a year. We have a mentoring session that meets one Friday morning. And you bring cases and you can sit down. We just sort of work out problems. And so it's sort of a community of dentists that come together for these live virtual courses and for our study club and for our little mentoring sessions. And it's a great way, I think, for everyone from, say, the newbie who's just gotten out of school and just has no reps. They've only done, 2 posterior composites and they don't know where to go. And people who are, we have people in DOT who are 40, 50 years of practicing, but want to get better at the dentistry they're doing and want to learn techniques that they haven't been able to learn before, like composite veneers, stuff like that. So we have a whole range of people in our group, and it's just an awesome, I think, just a great little thing we got going.
I see your program as great for many people, but I mean, there's so many things that you offer that other people just, that I just haven't heard of, that are out there. I mean, how cool is it that you have an on-demand or a live veneer cementation course? I mean, I have a buddy across the road from me. He graduated a year ahead of me in dental school. I mean, yes, I broke the 50 train this year. So that means that he's over 50. And he calls me 2 weeks ago and he's like, dude, help me with veneer cementation. And I'm like, I mean, you're never too old to learn. I mean, but the earlier we start, the better we're going to be. And I think this is great. I see this in so many avenues of dentistry, but goodness gracious, I think this would be great for like DSOs to just buy the subscription for their new associates. I mean, how much training's in there? So, I know that's a hated word, but as an entrepreneur, you certainly don't hate it if they want to buy a subscription.
For sure. We're about helping dentists get more confident when they're sitting down with their patient. I mean, I remember the first time I did a porcelain veneer case. I remember the 10th time. I think porcelain veneers are one of the more stressful things that most dentists do in their day, in their practices. They're so technique sensitive. So
I they're high demand patients to begin with usually. So,
yes, exactly.
you're trying to meet this great expectation. And so, I mean, that's a lot of pressure for someone who's just starting at that. For someone who's been doing it. Yeah.
And then knowing the materials, right? Knowing your adhesives. So we spend a lot of time making sure people are really familiar with what system are you using? What system should you be using? What should you be thinking about? So there's so much that, when I was in dental school, I say we had to learn an inch of material, but we had to learn it a mile deep. I had to know every single thing about amalgam. I had to know everything, right? But now in school, they have to learn a mile of material, but they only learn it an inch deep, and they have such little reps on it. And it's this, I think, is a safe way. And what I tell my DOT members, look, you get good at doing this live virtually, then you can spend your money and then go to Kois, go to Cosmetic, go to these places where you're going to have people looking over your shoulder, but you will have experience. You'll have reps doing this. And then you go there and you're just going to get much more value as you're paying that accelerator rate, as you're closing down your office, as you're traveling and all that stuff. So I think it's a great, it's our entry level drug to get people into doing better dentistry, so.
Yeah. Well, it's always, it's obvious that you love what you do, and we really appreciate people like you being on the show. We've had just an amazing time speaking with you and learning about what you do. And I'd love for you to share with our crew, I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but if you are, that'd be a great place for you to drop some information on your training, because we'd certainly love to promote you, and we're all about the world of education. And if nothing else, send it to us, and we'll make sure that we get that information out there.
Well, thank you. So we're dental online training, or dothandson.com. And if anyone wants to reach out to us, then email dot@dothandson.com. And so we're having our course in about a month. Sorry, I don't know the dates. I should know the dates. I don't know the dates.
Nope, other people should know the dates. And
no, they told me.
That's when you know you're running a business.
Yeah. They told me today, but I just don't remember the dates. But we're doing a 2-day workshop where it's peg laterals in class 4, and you're going to get all the materials, all the stuff that we're using. So with the DOT format, it's $2,000 essentially for the year subscription. You can take all the courses. You just have to order the kits separately. Those are all a la carte. And if anyone signs up, if you say, hey, I was on Dinks, if you just email dot@dothandson.com and say, I was on the Dinks and I want to get involved, then we'll send you your first kit for free. It's like $600 worth of materials.
That's awesome.
And we'll give you the kit for free and come in and see what great stuff we're doing. It's a great group. I mean, we have such an awesome group of dentists that are they just share. It's like this, and people are saying, Dennis, I've been doing this. What do you think about this? Or someone will say, oh, I've been using this material. It's an incredible community.
Well, I have an idea that we'll chat about after the show, real quick. But I'm going to say something. I think there's a great way to advertise this. But anyhow, we've run over, which means that we were enjoying it. The way that it's not going well is you get the shepherd's hook at about 8:19 or 9:19. I mean, I didn't even have to pull out the shepherd's hook. The only time we did that is when Jennifer and I decided to have Jeff as our guest one night. We're like, oh my God.
It was the worst.
That had to be painful.
Worst show ever.
But as we close tonight, I just want to thank you for being here. And want to ask you if you'd be willing to come back. Maybe if you're on social media, we'd love you to post anything you feel free to in our group. It's open to you. And DOT is not Department of Transportation. Right. And online training. So,
how shocked was I when I was driving from Milwaukee to Chicago to my practice, and I saw these DOT trucks. I'm like, look at the promotion we're getting. This is fantastic.
You should just go out there and slap some stickers.
Exactly.
And Dinks is not double income, no kids.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's good
So
too.
many bad acronyms out here.
So anyhow, well, everybody, we hope that you got something out of tonight's show. Fantastic dentist, fantastic time, and we look forward to having you back again, Dennis. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. It was great. I was looking forward to this, and I had such a blast hanging out with you guys in Aruba. And I'm sorry only 2 of the 3 could be there, but some people have to make sacrifices and can't have all that much sun.
Someone has to stay behind and work.
He had to run the business, so
exactly.
But it was great just hanging out.
Great to meet you though, Dennis, and it was a lot of fun. We can't wait to have you back.
All right, I gotta get this guy back to work, so this is a good time.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, Dinks.